Learn to fly the Grumman A6 Intruder. Hi everyone, Howard here from ForderLearnToFly. Let's get started on this beautiful airplane. This is really something. It's just been released for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This airplane has been around in a number of sims over the years. In fact, it had its own software at one time, many years ago, called the A6 Intruder. I think it was Flight of the Intruder, named after the movie. And, you know, called a game back then. And back then we only had a joystick. That was it for the hardware. And we had an overlay that went on our keyboard, and it told us what all the functions were. And we used to do all kinds of missions with the thing. So, you know, this has been around a long time. Let's move over to our, what I'll call my teaching screen, where we can have a look at what's happening here over on this side here. And this way it gets me out of the way so that you can see what's behind me here. And, you know, you can take a look at the Grumman A6 Intruder. And this is one, you can recognize it right away. It's one of those planes that you look at and go, oh, I know what that is. And one of the things that make it recognizable right behind my shoulder here, you can see, I'll get a closer view of this, but you can see the two circular kind of eyes on it. These are really reinforced double pane something or other kind of glass on the front, but that makes it look like eyes. You see these sort of jowls on the side. These are your air intakes for your two engines, your two jet engines, and they make that sort of hornet or wasp or something kind of look too. And then this bulbous nose that they have with all the radar stuff inside there. And you know, this is, you know, again, one of these, every time we look at one of these airplanes, it's ahead of its time in the avionics, ahead of its time and everything else. And so you look at all of these features that will be in this plane. Today we kind of chuckle and look at it and go, oh, that's new? Yeah, it was new back then. And it was one of those, you know, high-tech advanced bomber attack aircraft. So that's what we're going to go look at, you guys. So this is the A6 Intruder. Now, I'll mention to you, if you haven't seen the movie Flight of the Intruder, yeah, and I was just watching that thing for the last couple of nights and just getting a feel for what it was like, at least from a Hollywood perspective. That's a good movie to go see. I did show the trailer or part of the trailer of that movie on my Twitch channel, but I can't do that on YouTube because you can't take a YouTube video and recycle it without getting in trouble. So just go find that. Maybe I can make a link for it, you guys. There's a trailer for the Flight of the Intruder, and that's what you should go check it out. All right, so I do want to mention this was our Tuesday lesson on Twitch. If you haven't been to Twitch before, you'll see a link here somewhere along the way where you can actually go and find it and come on Twitch and see things live. Every Tuesday we do a lesson on something, and these take quite a while to make. This one took 4 days to make this lesson, 4 devoted days. It was pretty intense, even though half the electronics in this plane don't work because we don't do missiles. But, you know, that's something that a lot of people find valuable. A lot of people are discovering here through YouTube, coming over to Twitch and seeing the live sessions and being able to talk and chat while I'm actually doing them. Anyway, so let's go take a look. Here's the lineup, you guys, the 6 steps. You've seen this in some of my other videos. A lot of people like this procedure. It's very in-depth. The videos have become very long, but you can pick the parts you need. You'll see all the chapters there. You see in the description below here. And pick the part you want or skim through the parts that you already know. Introduction, first of all, to some of the history, some of the, you know, I keep history down to 1 slide, but, you know, I want to also take a look at some of the systems that are on it before we get into the 6 or 7 steps. In this case, 7 steps to learning a new aircraft, because step 5 will be the weapon systems and what we can do about that. But, you know, most of the important part in here is the cockpit orientation, getting to know where everything is so that you can take it for a flight, and then actually demonstrating this, getting to altitude, doing a dive, coming into a landing, attempting a carrier landing. I'm not sure if I'll do that today for you on the channel here, but next week's lesson on Twitch will be Super Carrier Pro, which is actually Miltech Simulation's beautiful product, and I might take the Intruder and do it there. Now, the first thing I'll mention is you see here in this snapshot here, these are all sim pictures. They look, you know, the 3D modeling looks very good. It's exactly the kind of texture you'd expect. I'm not an A6 pilot by any means. I fly GA planes in real life. But you look at this and you just think, this isn't that clean, cartoonish looking, maybe even FSX days, you know. I mean, this is done really well. So there are certainly some systems that are in here that don't work at all. It's not one of those planes that every single switch right down to the last circuit breaker works. Nope. Actually, none of the circuit breakers work. So do we really need it? And so, we take a look at this. We're not talking what's called study level. We're having some fun and reliving a part of what they lived when they were in this type of airplane during the Vietnam War back in those days. All right, so let's go take a look, you guys, at what this is all about. Here's what it looks like in the sim. This is for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can probably find it in other simulators. I have flown this in FSX. I have flown this in FS 2004. I'm not sure if it's an X-Plane. I've used X-Plane for years, but I don't remember the Intruder being in there. And it was its own product, the Flight of the Intruder. And my son and I, when he was very young, used to go and do sorties with that. So, and it's produced by a developer called Demos. And so I've tried to contact them because there's no manual. And here's part of the task here. The challenge for me was there's no manual that comes with the sim version to talk about what's changed and their idea and why they did this and why they did that and how to use this and how to use that. None of that is here. So I've had to go and get a real POH, which is what the real pilots would look at. And there's tons of stuff in there. This thing is huge. And I've read through that a number of times, picked out the parts we need. So I'll show you some snapshots of some pages from that manual, but I can't sell that manual. I can't give you that manual because I had to pay for it. So, I think it's Flight Manuals Online. I'll give you an option of where that came from. So I had to go find a real one, and it's by, flight-manuals-online.com. That's where it's from. And so I can just show you a couple of snapshots, and that's it. But the rest I have to just devise for myself and take all my own screen snaps. And these are all taken from the sim, you guys. All right, so an attack aircraft, twin jet, and we're going to talk about that in a little more detail. All-weather attack aircraft. Typically, a lot of these runs they did in Vietnam were done by night from carriers. And so they had to be very comfortable and very knowledgeable of how to do that properly from a carrier at night in bad weather. And so I'll give you a hint, and I'll give you some samples of what we can do with that. The ultimate experience with this plane, after I put in quite a few hours, the ultimate experience has been to take it out on a night flight. Just see how that works. And just see how cool that is. It really does. And put the red light, the floodlight inside the plane. See your instruments, they're all lit up. The rest of your plane is cold and dark on the outside so that it's not detected. And they took off and this is my primary language. They flew at 300 feet above the surface, all the way in the dark, in bad weather, or any kind of whatever weather was there, to their target, and precisely bombed their target and came all the way back. Now, certainly we're not doing that here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We can put bombs on. I'll talk about how to do that, but we can't drop them. But still, we're here to fly the plane, all right? We're not here to actually go bomb something. If so, you should actually go look at DCS. It's your combat flight simulator. And there's a new flight simulator coming out. I just saw at FS Expo last month. Time is flying. And that combat simulator is actually completely web-based. What? Anyway, it's pretty cool. So we're going to see that coming out. So two-seater, they called it a STOL aircraft, believe it or not. We think of STOL as, a single-engine, non-high-performance piston airplane with propellers, tail dragger even. That's what we think of as STOL. But STOL meaning short takeoff and landing. This thing, compared to other jet military aircraft, could take off and land in short distances. Well, it certainly helps on a carrier too when you've got steam-powered catapult and arresting cables to pull you down. So it has two people in it, the pilot and the bomber navigator. It uses two Pratt & Whitney turbojet engines, and these are very popular. In addition to conventional munitions, it could also deliver. It was designed to deliver nuclear weapons, although there's nothing on record that it ever did. Headquartered in Long Island, New York, so that's where I'm going to fly out of and do my demonstration, you guys. And they produced almost 700 of these between 1963 to 1997. And apparently there are no more flying today. They're in museums. Two successful variants were the A6B Prowler. That's a very popular one also. It's a 4-seat aircraft. And then the KA-6D tanker. All right, so let's go find out some more in here. Now, I took this snapshot right out of the POH because I wasn't going to retype all this stuff again. So I realize now on the bigger screen it's kind of blurry. Okay. But it gives us an idea, maximum speed of 560 knots, cruise speed of 412. That's around that's around the maximum I got. So I think without the external fuel tanks, without all the bombs put on there, I could probably take it higher. But with bombs and fuel, I couldn't get it past 400 knots. And anyway, so stall speed 98. Now this will depend on if you're still carrying a lot of weight and fuel. Never exceed 700. Again, I never got past 400, so we'll see. It may be in a dive. Combat range 878 miles, nautical miles, with your maximum payload and more. A lot of times I saw it quoted as 1,200 more if you're actually lighter. But combat range, you guys, you obviously must be loaded for that. Ferry range 2,800 nautical miles for ferrying people. They don't ferry people for going further. Service ceiling 42,000. I made it to 37. Couldn't get much higher. So you know, it might speak to the model, the flight model of MSFS, of this plane in MSFS. It might speak to that. It might be that I can't get to those numbers because this is out of the POH for the real plane. It might be I can't get to those numbers because of the flight model. Who knows? Rate of climb now 7,000 feet per minute. Now I've done a test on this, so we're almost vertical. And we're getting these kind of numbers. It's amazing. And then to take off run to 50 feet, over 4,000 feet. So you need a 6,000 foot runway for most of these operations. All right, so that gives you an idea. I'm not going to dwell on each one. It's going to end up being a 2-hour video again, so I got to go fast. I mean, stop, pause as you need, okay? Go to chapters as you need. As you can see in here, designed to be a 2-seat aircraft to perform carrier-based operations regardless of the weather. And swept wing, as you can see here in the 3 view, a favorable level of maneuverability even while carrying a sizable bomb load. And in fact, they took that similar wing design and moved it over to the F-14, the Tomcat, the famous one from certainly Top Gun. Avionics were sophisticated. I'm going to dwell a bit on this. I want you to understand what this is because it's right in our face and it's bright green. And so what is this all about? So this is called a vertical display indicator, or a VDI. And this gives us steering cues. I got a watermark of it here, but I'm going to elaborate in the next page. And so steering cues and synthetic vision. This is 1963, and they had synthetic vision. What? You know, so we're going to take a look at that. But here in the sim, don't expect that. Even though here in the sim we do that, in our G1000 even has synthetic vision. You know, so you look at a number of airplanes now have synthetic vision where you actually see the terrain the way it's supposed to look in this synthetic vision right through your PFD. So here, was this the first time they ever had such a thing? They sort of, you know, they try to do it in the sim itself, what they've got showing us. What we really have is just an HSI, the same as the smaller one. So, you know, we'll go take a look at that and see how it goes. But this was a cathode ray tube commonly used in televisions up to the advent of flat screens. Televisions had these tubes in them that had an action, and we won't get into it. I used to be a TV serviceman, so we won't get into all that. But, you know, this is the CRT screens of the old days in this airplane, in an airplane. So this heavy-duty fuselage and double-pane windshields make it a rugged adversary for warfare. The landing gear was designed to take a hard landing on a carrier deck without a flare. And you don't flare. We noticed, you know, we took the F-18 sessions where we actually came into carriers, and we just put it down. The gear, if you look at the gear on these things, they're made to take a hit. And you just come down and put it on the carrier, let the arrestor cable pull you to a stop. Can you imagine the G-forces on your body? Oof. So here it is, landing mode. Well, they're showing you what screens look like. This is right from the POH for real pilots. And they're looking at this saying, here's the sort of thing to expect when you go up flying. So they got this interesting, you know, black dots for the ground, white clouds for the sky. Not very prominent here, but very prominent in the sim. And in the sim, we don't have these kind of indicators. You're not going to see it looking like this or looking nice like this when you're high or low or medium, whatever. So that doesn't help us at all. But you can see how it helped them back in the day. They had different modes here. Here's attack mode, etc. There's a few different modes here. And there's also certainly your angle of bank. Of course, like we expect this now in our PFD on a simple G1000. Even on our 530, 430s, we can get similar kind of indications of deviation or the DVI or the needle. So, you know, this stuff is, you know, not new, but back then it was revolutionary, the synthetic vision, because they had completely zero vis in front of them. And so this was necessary for them to be able to get through and cut through that kind of weather and get to their target and find their way back too, right? So this information plus the whole bomber navigator calculations in the right seat enabled precise bombing runs again and again. And they did. So, but let me just show you some of these things. Now, this isn't the right side where the bomber navigator is. This is in the center console. We're going to be using like 4 or 5 of these buttons. The rest of these from here down don't even work. We don't do any of that stuff. None of these work over here, but certainly the ones I'm pointing out here, the 3 here, GPS mode, nav mode, TACAM mode. This is for your autopilot. It's also to help you with your OBS needle. This is your map zoom button, and here, this is actually a map underneath here in this bubble. And it's much like our V key, Victor key in our sim, so that we can see a map. It's exactly the same kind of map, right? We have this is what I was talking about. This was, what would normally be a more elaborate indicator of where we are and what we're doing with synthetic vision. This only shows your typical HSI stuff, horizontal situation indicator. And you can see here, as you turn, it will also bank. It's a gyro instrument, really. And as you turn, it will bank. As you climb, you'll see it going more green with white clouds. And as you descend, and we'll do a demo, you'll see more of the ground with black dots for some reason, right? So I honestly find this thing completely useless. I went through the soup, the fog, just to see if I could rely on instruments, and I pulled it off because I'm used to instruments. But I could have easily found the same information on the smaller HSI that's just already there. So, this thing, what they've done is the developers tried to make this useful. It certainly isn't the instrument that you get in the real plane, that's for sure. So I dim it right here. There's a button here that does work, that dims it down to this color instead of bright green in your face, all right? And the gun sight will turn on the reticles on your gun, on your HUD. That's handy for landing, for taxiing, for whatever, it's all we can use it for. So that's just letting you know what these buttons are in the center console of the plane. All right, moving on, the automatic carrier landing system. I want to mention right out of the POH, I had to put this in there. You don't have to read it, of course, but they talk about in here this automatic carrier landing system, or the ACLS. And in here, this is using a number of systems to bring this plane in to the carrier and land it. Hands off. Back in 1963. Man, that's beautiful. We don't have this in our plane, in the sim. But, a lot of interesting stuff I found in the POH, and this is one of them. You can see here, this is actually an AOA indicator. As simple as that, 3 colors right here. All right, this color at the bottom would be green, this color at the top would be red, it'd be yellow in the middle, and in the middle is desirable as you're coming into land. All right, and so that's simple as that. We have a more elaborate one here in the sim and in the real plane. I mean, this comes from the real plane, but with their automatic carrier landing system, that's what this is for. We have an actual dial that you can actually pick a number. And they have a chart, which we're not going to show you. It's just, I can't keep showing you charts all night. We'll be here for hours and hours and hours. But there's a chart that says, depending on your flaps, depending on your configuration, depending if your weight is higher or lower, what your AOA indicator number should be. Should it be 27? Should it be 22? Should it be 28? And they actually have a precise number, which is more precise than this. But anyway, that's interesting in this airplane to go see all that stuff. Hand fly your carrier approaches, which is doable. So we don't have this capability. We're going to hand fly, and it can be done. All right, so this is what it looks like in the sim. There's a number of variations. There could even be as much as 16. And I want to talk about how you can add weapons to each of these, because these will not have weapons. All right, so we got to see what that's all about. So here is something called the weapons patch. This is on flightsim.to for free. You can add the weapons patch and it will give you the ability to put weapons on. So you'd still have to go into your sim, and you'd still have to go to weight and balance and add these in. And we'll talk about that when we get to a screen on that. But now, once you've added this patch in, it's just simply drop this in the community folder. You're going to see this new set of variations. All 16 of these liveries are now going to show up with the same names, but with a W afterwards. That's your weapons version. Well, it's funny, they don't actually show the weapons, but it's the weapons version of this plane. And so then you can put on your all your weapons in there, and you'll see how simple that is on the next page here. So the holders inner and the holders outer, you just put in over 1,000 and they'll show up, right? Once you have this add-on in there, right? So you're looking for the W ones. If you'd like to have the look of that, right in the sim. All right, weight and balance. Now this is important. I go to this kind of screen and every time I do these presentations, but I want to mention you guys, this is 50%. This is the default, the way the sim starts. All the sim airplanes start at 50% fuel, 50% everything. The payload here is down to 0. We got 2 pilots and no holders. This is where you put your numbers in for your weapons. You want to make note of your weight before you take off, because that's going to affect your approach speed, stall speed, all these other speeds. So take note of that. You notice here the default one's 37,705, so we're going to use that number in all of our calculations, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail for you. All right, I want to make sure you know that it's pretty simple. I'm lucky enough to have a Virpil throttle quadrant with a split left-right engine quadrant. And then I also have, doesn't show it here, but I also have what's called a spade stick. It was actually made by Authenticate. My co-host Andrew made it for me, and works like a charm. It's very sensitive and beautiful for flying planes that have sticks. But anyway, I'm using that. But here I'm just showing you the throttle, making sure you can split them if you can. All right, let's get to the 7 steps, you guys, because we got to move on this. We want to go fly with this. And so when you take out the A6 Intruder, let's take this baby out for a spin. Let's take it to altitude. Let's make sure we can do a landing. And we'll look at some of those numbers. So the first thing is you always obtain the POH. Now, some of you will only obtain, in all of these aircraft that I show you, some of you will only obtain the sim manual. In other words, the developer put together a manual. Some of them are really well made. Some of them are not so well made. In this case, he didn't even make one. And I tried to contact him. I found his, I found the developer's name on flightsim.to. I sent him a message, a private message, nothing. So, this is one of those developers, one of those rare developers that won't converse with me for some reason. Maybe they can't even speak my language. I don't know. All right. So I'm going to just go alone here and just grab a real POH and try and do something with it. And this is what it looks like, and that I'm using here. And as I mentioned to you earlier, this is made by, or provided by, I had to pay $10 for this, Canadian, or $10 American, flightmanualsonline.com, flight-manuals-online.com. And I went in there. I go there as a last resort. If you can't find one for free, then you go in there. All right, so we'll go through the 7 steps. Get the manual first. Learn some of the vital speeds. You don't need to know them all. Learn how to handle twin engines. Well, that's our case for sure. Get or make a checklist. There's the built-in checklist, which we'll use. And then weapon systems. In this case, number 5 is different than some of the other lessons I've been teaching. This is weapons systems. Really just how to load it up. And we already know how to do that. But there's not much I can talk about in there, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Cockpit orientation, the 10 views, control 0 to 9. What are those stock views? And then I'm going to tell you right now, you're obviously going to have to use a head tracker, or you're going to have to use your right mouse click and drag to find the right view, to find the right switches. All right. I've mapped some things to my Virpils and way I go, but there's other things I still have to reach down and look for them, either with a head tracker or not. And so, you'll need different views. If they come out with a better cameras for this product, I'm definitely getting it, because it's got to be better than what's in here. All right, so and then take it for a spin, and let's get to practice area and altitude and go have some fun with it. All right, the pilot's operating handbook, I've mentioned that already. We can do an internet search. If you ever find a free one, drop me a note in my Discord and let me know, but I've already spent the money and commitment on this baby. So here's what I put together. I took a screen snap of the airspeed indicator, zoomed in so we can see what it looks like. On the outer dial, we see a Mach number, and on the inner dial, we see the speed, and jumps over to here at 150 and goes around from here. This is 600 knots right here. That's the top speed. That actually should be extended down. For some reason, it's not. Not sure what happened there. Cruise speed 600? I don't think so. I think cruise speed's 400, and well, top speed they got at 1000. So this actually is surprising when they put these numbers in like this, because cruise speed in another picture, or the sim picture, shows 400 knots. So there's some discrepancies there between the POH for the real plane and the sim version. Top speed of 1000. We can't even see that on here. It goes as far as 600 in the sim. So these are from POH for the real plane. These are sim on here on this airspeed indicator. There's something called a refusal speed, and that's kind of interesting. That's the maximum speed for engine failure on takeoff and permits stopped by the end of the runway if you have 6,000 foot runway. All right, and when you get to 135, if you have engine troubles, you can still shut them down, slam on the brakes, and you'll still survive. That's kind of interesting. Good to know in real life, isn't it? Stall speed will be variable, but keep out of this range down here between the 100 and 120 knots. Just stay out of there. We're going to rotate at 112 or more, maybe even 120. Like in this range, we'll rotate, but we won't come back down in that range. When we're coming into land, we're going to be in this area between 120 and the 150, right? And it changes depending on your weight. So keep that in mind. As your needle stays in this area, don't let it drop below 120. You're going to get in trouble real fast, depending on your speed and how far you're turning and all the rest. All right. I told you to go fast, you guys, because this ends up being 2 hours. I've learned in the past. And some of you, I get lots of great comments. I haven't had any negative comments, except there's a lot of talking. Well, I'll say this. If you go and learn a real airplane, there's a briefing before every flight. A briefing. There's ground school of 45 hours. There's a ton of briefings before and after. Here, we're learning a plane that takes pilots 6 months to learn. 6 months of studying the POH, of practicing, of theory, of flying maneuvers and combat and weapon systems, and 6 months before they're allowed to just go off to a carrier. So we're doing this in a 2.5 hour Twitch or a 2 hour YouTube. You know, I mean, holy moly. So I'm showing you the odd performance diagram. You know, you go through the POH, there's lots of great information, but this one I'm showing you to get an idea here. We've got our default 50% weight and balance that I showed you earlier, right? That's just the way it is when we open the sim. And that equates to 37,705 pounds. Okay. So at that weight, you can see down here, at that weight, it's showing us here the optimum approach speed. I'm just coming into a runway. I'm not going, you know, minimum landing distance, stall warning speed, power approach stall speed, power approach stall speed. These are all carrier kind of stuff or short field, certainly. Let's do normal stuff to start with and get comfortable with the plane. And then you can start doing the more challenging stuff later. So let's do the comfortable thing. 30 degrees of flaps. Tip speed brakes extended. We're going to talk about those, all right, and see how that works. When we're using this configuration, we should be getting 22 units AOA, AOA, angle of attack, 22 units. Well, I'm not going to be that accurate, but that's what we strive for. And what will my actual approach speed be? The indicated airspeed will be around this area, 120, 125, 122, 124 is what that is right there. All right, so 124. So here I've got it right here is 124 on the airspeed indicator. There's your approach speed. Typically on landings on all aircraft, you'll set your landing speed with your yoke or your stick. Your landing speed is set by your pitch of the airplane. And this is so important. I do this lesson on landings. I won't do it here, but I'm just giving you the summary. But I do a lesson, a whole Tuesday evening lesson on landings, different kinds of landings and winds and whatever, because most people don't know how to land. It's something we have to learn in real flight schools. So that's something that most people have trouble with in the sim. But the point is here, if you want to set a certain speed, people are playing around with their yoke and their power, and they're just doing this all the way down to the runway. Power yoke, power yoke, power yoke. I'm not sure how to make this stable. Well, let's try this. You're coming in straight and level, and you want to go at 124 knots. That's pretty slow for this plane. You're going to pull back your power completely as you're coming in like this. As you're getting close to, you're keeping it level. As you're getting close to that 124 mark, you add some power to stay there. All right, and now you're going to pitch the plane. Now, in this case, they're saying tip speed brakes extended. We're going to look at those and see what those are. We're going to extend those tip speed brakes. They're not spoilers, they're speed brakes, all right? We're going to look at those. Flaps 30, all right? So whatever 30 becomes on here. All right, is that your takeoff flaps or is that the full flaps, right? So we're going to get flaps 30, and we're going to put the speed brakes on, and we're going to point the nose, and we're going to nail with pitch. We're going to nail 124 and stay there all the way down the runway. Now, if the runway is, if it looks like we're going to overshoot the runway, like even far back, you can tell the runway's gone off your windscreen. If you're going to overshoot the runway, then we better pull back some power. When you pull back power, you lose lift. As you're coming into the runway, you'll see it line up again. And then add some power to make sure it stays there on the windshield. If you look like you're going to land before the runway, it's going to travel up your windshield, and you're going to be heading to the dirt. How are we going to fix that? Most people pull up. When they pull up, they lose airspeed. So we're just going to pull up. Most people pull up, so let's do that. No, we're going to add more power, which will bring it back up again. To our visual, all we see is the runway going up and down our windshield. That's all we really see. All right, that's why I'm trying to show it to you like this. Overshoot the runway, what are we going to do? You're not going to point the nose down. You're just going to reduce power, and your plane will lose lift. If we're going to land before the runway, we're going to add power, and you'll gain lift. This is such a marvelous thing to learn. If you ever on a commercial flight on your way into land, listen, the engines are actually spooling up. Oh, they're spooling back down. Oh, they're spooling back up again. They're doing power to get to the runway, and they're just using rudder or aileron to align. It's awesome stuff, you guys. If you learn nothing else out of this lesson, there's the landing nugget right there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to nail 124 with this configuration, and then we're going to use power to get to that spot. Now, carrier landing on a moving carrier is harder. I want you to think about that for a second. We're going to land on land only in our demonstration, because let's get used to this and how the plane handles on land. All right. And if you want to do carrier style landing, certainly come down without a flare and hit those wheels on that runway where the arrestor cables will be. You can practice that all day long and then get used to that. But we'll just do a normal landing on a stationary runway. When you think about an aircraft carrier, you're coming into land, you're nailing 124 like you're supposed to, and it looks like you're going to make it. The carrier's moving. Guess what? This is why they have what's called the ball. We've got some indicators to help us with this, because we've got to not only land on that, what we're looking at, but we got to catch up to it while it's moving. Wow. And so that's harder, you guys, and we'll certainly tackle that another time. Matter of fact, on our Twitch channel next week is supposed to be Super Carrier Pro. I got a lot of research to do still to be able to do landings on there, and I'll probably use this intruder to do it. But certainly, you know, to Super Carrier Pro, the easiest way is to use the more modern jets. Go take an F-18 with all its electronics and just AOA indicator and whatever, and just take that in and you'll be able to nail it. Then you can come back to these old vintage planes. So you can see there we've picked our speed. Let me go a little further now. That's what it's going to look like. Almost horizontal, almost perfectly right across the screen, right? Here's a memory aid. And this is what I try to do to help people understand the more complex stuff. There are so many variables here when you come and land. What we're going to try to do is make something predictable and work with that, all right? This part here is easy once you do the technique that I mentioned, which every CFI will tell you. Every single instructor will tell you. You manage your airspeed on your approach with pitch, with your yoke in this case, or with your stick, like I just said, all right? So that's the easy part. We can nail this, trim for it, and leave it. Here's the hard part now. We got to try and get this on our AOA indicator. If you're way too high and your power's too high and your power's too low and you're way too low or whatever else is all those variables, this thing could be way over here. It could be way up here. It could be like here. It could be, I don't know what this 22 is that Howard's after, but I'm going to try to put the needle that way. And I'm going to try to keep my airspeed that way. So look, this simple way to start, you guys, with the default 50% weight and balance, let's try to make both needles like that. And now you might spend 3 or 4 hours like I did, just working on this. That's what I'm after. My pitch is going to stay like that. So what can I change? There's 2 variables to change. One is power, and the other one is altitude. All right, so I want you to think about that. What's your normal circuit pattern? Circuit pattern is at 1,000 feet above the ground, AGL, and from 1,000 feet above and a half mile out, we've got the right visual. Half mile out. What if I'm a mile out? What if I'm 2,000 feet? You know, so look at all the variables we got here. Let's try to make it into something simple. So what we want to do is go take a look. The POH tells us, here's how far away you should be. At a half mile, you should be 800 feet, 1,000 feet, and you should be able to, you know, put it right in the slot and take it down. Another way you could do this too is to go in on an ILS and just see what does that look like for feet per minute and for the visual and for, you know, the ILS will glide you right down with autopilot, right down, right down, right down. Okay, land it. So try that. This is the hardest thing, especially when we're in such a powerful plane like this. Look at 2 jet engines and 2 people, and a ton of fuel and a ton of ammo. All right, so that's our visual that we want. Try to keep that in mind. You're going to be looking at that, looking at that. Now, the AOA is off to the left, but still, we want to see those 2 indicators like that. Okay, a couple more history things. We get right into the 7 steps and zoom. All right, so the Pratt & Whitney J52 turbojet, not turboprop. There's no room for propellers on this plane. These are turbojets. And man, these things are powerful, right? 9,300 pounds thrust per engine. We got 2 of them. And more than 5,000 of these were built. And interestingly, in my research, I noticed that they use the same jet engine inside the AGM-28 missiles. I didn't realize they were that big. But anyway, pretty interesting, right? Here's what it looks like inside the plane. I thought I'd show you this side view. It looks great. You're sitting right above this part here. And there's the, you know, where it sits inside the plane. And you'll also notice here's the radar dome here with its, even looks like a satellite on the front. And there's something else in here too over here. But it is an interesting view, isn't it? And that's what it looks like. There's 2 of these, 1 on each side of the fuselage. All right, we're going to get started. When we start flying the plane, we need to get it started. So I have to actually start it up properly according to the checklist. Here are the throttle quadrant levers on the left and your flap lever on the left here. And this is where your left hand goes. Like a lot of fighter jets, you're in the left seat, your hand on the stick, your other hand on the throttle. And behind the throttle are a whole bunch of switches. You can actually see one of them right here. Master light, I think it says on here. But there's a ton of switches down this panel. I'll show you those in a minute. We're only going to need to touch 3 or 4 of those to get rolling. And then above your left hand is everything else, your landing gear and your, whatever they call it. What's the name? It's not coming to me when you're on the carrier deck. The catapult lever. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, what we're talking about here is the split throttle. If you've got the ability to have 2 throttles here, that's great when you're doing a startup because you have to move one forward, hit the start button underneath and move it back. Move the other one forward, hit the startup button, move it back. But if you don't have that, that's fine. You can manually drag them with your mouse. Click the start button and drag them back. So that's okay. And then you can still use your home cockpit throttle, single lever, mapped to both if you wish. All right. Now I want to talk about this because I'm going to show you this. I'm going to try to show you this properly when I get inside the plane. So I do take snapshots because sometimes it takes me a while to get the right position here. So this is the center panel. This is the lower part of the center panel that I told you about before. Here's actually the gun sight switch. Behind, above that is your dimmer switch, and 3 buttons at the top here work. So this is just looking a bit lower on that center panel. Now, when we first start this up, we're going to be paying attention to this lowest panel right here before it goes horizontal. And this is right in the middle console, you guys. So one of the first things on our checklist is to turn on the generators. And then we're actually turning on the fuel. I want to talk about that for a minute. It's valuable minutes, I know, you guys, but I want to talk about that because it looks like it's the wrong way. And I've already had someone comment about this. Someone says, oh, you got to turn them off to turn them on. I'm serious, you guys. Take a look closely at this. Now, I'm a logical person. I'm an IT trainer, and I have a certification in programming, and I used to teach at college. I'm logical. My point is, you got to look at it. I did group policies from NT all the way up through, you know, group policies and all the rest of it, system policies. When you do system policies, you read what the statement says, and then you say the word enable or disable. This is going to make it easier for you, all right? Because it seems like you're shutting off the fuel to turn it on. And what this means, the statement says shut off, left shut off for the fuel, left shut off. So if you enable it in the up position, you have shut it off. That's how it works, you guys. That's how they designed it, you guys. And so when this is on, this is enabled, which means it's off. Isn't that weird? And I expected in IT, and we had to do this with, because, you know, some policies said, turn on this feature, and you enabled or disabled this turned on feature, you know, so it's like, oof. So what we got to do, I think we're doing the right one first. If I look up here, engine 2, yeah, probably fuel 2 first, and then fuel 1. What we're going to do is we're going to flip the switch down, and that will allow fuel flow. Seriously, all that talking to talk about that. And then we go start that engine. And later on, we come back. We already got the 2 gens on. We put the left engine switch down to enable fuel. And we go over and start that engine, all right? And here's where we started. You can see here, here's our right start right behind the right throttle lever and the left throttle lever. Simply click it with your mouse. I don't have it mapped to anything. My Virpil doesn't have buttons underneath there like that. So that's how it's done. But you got to push them forward just to see them. And this view is weird. I mean, there's no stock view like this. I had to go down, switch over, use my cursor keys to get over, cursor keys to get down, look at those throttles, move it forward, click it. Wow, that's a lot of work just to get it started. Whereas in the real plane, they don't even look. It's underneath their thumb on the throttles. They just go underneath the throttle and push the button. So, you know, it's a little harder in the sim, isn't it? All right, so now we got an idea. We're going to use this, and I'm going to recommend to all of you who are new to this or even new to the sim, if you click the eyeball on whatever it says, it will highlight it. In this case, if it was Gen 1 and I clicked that eyeball, it would come over here to Gen 1 and make it blue luminescent kind of thing. And then you can reach down and click it. So it helps you to find stuff, this. And that's what I had to use, you guys. I'm studying the POH. I'm using this checklist. I'm finding where switches are. I'm saving you some time, hopefully. All right. And so we take a look at this now. We're going to go through that whole checklist and pretty quick. You want to stop, you're going to have to pause. All right. Because I'm just going to keep going, you guys. There's a lot of stuff in here. All right. And some of you prefer the pace. I get lots of feedback about this pace is good. All right. So I'm going to keep it going. All right, so handling twin engines now is step number 3. Twin engines have some instrumentation right there in front of our face. This is from the cockpit view. There's our VDI up there. There's our moving map right there. There's our landing gear. And over here you see our parking brake, which is a pull out to be on and push all the way in to be off. That can be mapped to, well, your control period or even if you have a parking brake lever you want to use. RPMs are here as backup RPM gauges, but we have RPMs right here in this vertical line kind of graph. This is beautiful. You see this at a glance. And just like in your car at home, you should not be focusing with your head inside the dashboard. Of course, you're going to crash into something. So here, when you're flying and when you're in combat and when all the rest of it, you can just, even out of your peripheral vision, realize what your RPMs are, your EGTs if they're getting too hot, your fuel flow. In this case, I think I saw a diagram of, was it the Prowler? Didn't have this. It had some other like CHT or something in there. But this one shows fuel flow. It says FF right there. And left and right. Anyway, the most important one here, of course, is RPMs. Full military power or combat power is full open. Complete all the power you can get. Certainly when we're going to do our initial climb, we're going to be full power. Takeoff power and full power all the way up. Right? That's what we're going to do. And then when we level off, we'll pull it back to 70 to 60%. There's the backup gauges here. There's your hydraulic gauges right here for both of them too. Lots of redundancy in there. These numbers here, you can see high and low. PT, high and low, should be in that green area. They don't make it green in these old planes, but that's where you want it, in that range. And here we also see OP. And you notice in there a little hint in there. Oh, is this your N1 or N2? So we don't even, in the built-in checklist, we don't even touch any of this. It tells you to look here to make sure things are alive. But in the POH, now you get in more detail. And again, in this session, I'm not going to dive into every little instrument. We're going to be here for 6 hours. So I want to get you guys going in the air, give you an idea of orientation is what we're after. Right, handling twin engines, although this is not an engine control, the fact that they're on the throttle, I'm going to put it in this section right here. All right, so on our wingtips, we have these air brakes. These are variable air brakes. This is a variable switch that they use here, obviously electronically or hydraulically controlled, electronically over to the hydraulics, I should say. All right, you can see in this diagram, this is out of the POH, and it shows we're focusing on this, and here's where it sits in the plane. I love how they do this, like this skeletal view of the rest of the cockpit, and where am I going to find this thing? Over there. So they do this throughout the whole manual. It's beautifully done. On the throttle, they have this for your thumb. And for your thumb, what this is your speed brakes. They are not spoilers, they are speed brakes. And I want to make sure you understand the difference between them. I'm going to take a moment right now to talk about that. All right, so, and then when we're flying, I'm going to show you the slats at the front too, the difference between the slats, the flaps, and the speed brakes. Now, those who call these spoilers, the purpose of a spoiler is to spoil the lift. I want to say this and emphasize this because so many people get this wrong. I heard it at FS Expo when I was doing my speak there. I heard it also afterwards when people saw the online stuff from FS Expo, and they're talking to me about spoilers. Spoilers are on somewhere on the wing to spoil the lift, typically on the upper side. Flaps go down, spoilers can go up, and they will spoil the lift. That's exactly why they're called spoilers. They're spoiling that beautiful lift the wing was designed for. All right, those are typically used when you get on the ground. You'll notice with airliners, they have automatic spoilers spring up when they hit the ground to try and give them more resistance to the air. There's no lift at all. There's no lift on that wing at all. That thing is settling right in with all its weight. All right, those are spoilers that would be up here. These are air brakes. They're on the wing tips. They do not spoil the airflow. You still have lift going on here. The flaps down, this one has actually no flaps down at the moment. Flaps down will give you some drag and some lift. Flaps all the way down typically give you all drag. There's no more lift left, right? They're just like in a Spitfire. They're 89 degrees, almost 90 degrees down like barn doors. There's no lift whatsoever. You're stopping the wind from getting past you or the airflow from getting past you. So these are doing the same sort of thing. They're giving resistance to the upper and lower wingtip surface, and that will slow the plane down. They are used primarily, or they are used only, for slowing the plane down. They are variable too. I have a variable on my Virpil. I can do half brakes or full air brakes. So, you know, you can take those all the way in for a landing and leave them up because they'll help you with some drag until you're so slow that there's no more drag left. But, you know, that's actually interesting. Now, the flaps too, again, you heard me say that the first notch of flaps, 10 degrees of flaps, are all lift. There's very little drag. There's more lift than drag. It's very beneficial. You go down to 20 degrees, even in a Cessna 172, you're getting an equal amount. You're getting better visibility, but you're also getting more drag, which will keep you from speeding up. But it also gives you some lift so that your stall speed is lower. So, you know, flaps are a wonderful thing, but they're not an air brake, right? So we need the air brakes to get down to flap speed and gear speed, and then drop our gear and get everything dirty. Now, slats are at the very front. Slats. And typically, they are automatic in a lot of planes. If you're dropping your flaps, you're making the wing shaped differently. Instead of a straight wing like this, you're now bringing down a curve at the back, which will now give you better visibility, but it'll also make the plane slower, which will help once you're down to flap range. On here, the markings for flaps are in just near the fuselage here, and these are the ailerons on the outside. So you probably can't see that very well in the video, but that's, you know, close enough. So as you change the shape of that wing, now they've added slats at the front too, which will also aid in a slower stall speed and a slower approach speed. So some planes have those slats at the front. Certainly airliners do, right? The airliners change the huge shape of that wing as they're coming in nice and slow. All right, so all we have to do is drop flaps. You'll see the slats already work in this plane. And then we have the air brakes on the tips. Just so you know what we've got going for this plane. I wanted to explain it to make sure you understand the difference between them. Some people are just calling them synonymous. Oh, you mean the spoilers? No, I mean the air brakes. All right, so keep that in mind. There are extensive checklists in the POH. I love it. This is the stuff I'm used to. I have POHs for every plane I fly in real life. And so that's the habit I have here. You learn so much. I find it fascinating. And I know I'm a sick man, but I find this stuff fascinating because, you know, this is how the real plane operates. How much of that can we do? How real can we get in this? You know, and that's why I like reading about this stuff. But we have this basic checklist. You know, they've taken out, there's nothing to do with weapons check. There's nothing to do during your walk around. You're also supposed to inspect your ejector seats to make sure they're in order. We're not doing any of that. You see what I mean? But we can do some things. All right. And so we're going to do that. And this is all of the checklists you can see in here, the number of items in each one of these. So that's what we're going to do. Now, I do want to mention under checklist that they also have, from the POH, they tell us that there are takeoff landing checklists placarded, meaning they're right in the plane like you see here. This is a placard right in the plane. In real life, it's like that. Well, in real life, it's like this, and they've simulated that here also. There's our landing checklist. But to this day, and all these hours I've worked with it to make this lesson, I cannot find this one. It's there somewhere. But maybe the developer of this plane didn't put it in. I thought it'd be near the throttles maybe, or, you know, when you do your downwind checks, it's somewhere. But, you know, it's here anyway for us to, you know, it makes sense what they're talking about here. And yes, our flaps are flaperons, right, to help us with our turns. But anyway, that's and that's what flaperons are, you guys. Flaps are the inside part in here. I mentioned those already. There's your flap here. They both come down or up the same time. Up means nice and clean. Down means down and dirty. Keep that in mind, down and dirty. Okay? Up means clean. This is something a lot of new students ask me on my Udemy series. udemy.com. Anyway, I have courses on there, and I get new students asking me, so flaps, is up good or up is bad? Because they've seen spoilers go up, and they think they're flaps. See? A lot of people are confused. Flaps go down, and both sides go down the same time. All right? In our plane, we also get slats that open up and make this shape of the wing different. All right? So keep that in mind. So they're talking about flaperons. Well, ailerons are way out here. Way out here. Keep that as close to the camera as I can. Ailerons are out here. And when you put one aileron up, the other one's down, and vice versa. So think of it that way. And if you look at the plane, you'll see that's down, this one's up, as you move the yoke back and forth. All right, so those are your ailerons. To get more roll like that, to get even more effectiveness, let's have these big flap surfaces here. Even if you're down in the 20-degree position, let's have them move a little bit up and down together with the ailerons. We now have flaperons. Helps with the roll rate. Maybe without the flaperons, this thing could roll like slowly turn like this. Well, that's not very good in combat, is it? I need to snap and get out of there. All right, so maybe that's why they have that, for more effectiveness in your snap rolls as you get going. All right. Anyway, just giving you an idea. I'm probably elaborating too much and making the video too long, but let's go have a look. All right, weapon systems. Is this a mean-looking machine? It's like, are you kidding me? So as you can see, you know, when we look at this, all the different parts you see here, you can see right here. Look at the bombs on there, and that's where you put in an extra weight setting in the weight and balance. I'm going to show you what that looks like. But even looking at the, you know, looking at the engine, which way am I pointing? Right there. Oh, my camera's off for you. Right there. When you look at those engine intakes, holy moly, that's beautiful. Now there is a movable surface right here. I'm not quite sure if that's the bug cover, but it doesn't do anything in the sim. It doesn't move. I don't know why they'd cut off the air intake other than a bug cover when you're parked. But there is something red here, like a vein. It looks like it might even turn, but I don't see that happening in the sim. Anyway, this is a monster. It's just looking like it's getting ready for a war. And you know, that funny, you know, I think they intentionally made it look like, hey, look this, we got ourselves a bug. All right, so weapons systems, the bomb, we'll just say it, the bomber navigator. The bomber navigator seat to the right, full view of everything that controls all the weapons. We don't have weapons control. None of these buttons are live. It looks amazing. It looks complex. Nothing's going on here. I want to tell you that in this sim. We've talked about the few buttons that go along on here in the center console. Up here we see the 6-pack for normal flying, the VDI, the moving screen, and our annunciator to make sure everything is off when we're flying. But nothing's going on over here. In fact, I can actually move that over for you just to show you. They have the same kind of screen here as they do here, which is a moving map. And certainly the navigator has to figure out where to drop the bombs. All things you can calculate here. Anyway, this, you know, it looks great. It's there, but it certainly doesn't do anything. I want to mention up here, there's something wrong with the bitmap too. I noticed these zeros up here are kind of stretched. I guess they're stretched sideways to fit the panel or something. Don't know what kind of magic he did in there, but you know, that's what that looks like. It should look like this, where you see proper digits. But anyway, I'm not going to complain about it because I can't do anything with weapons anyway. So, all right, we're getting to step 6. Hang in there. We're here at step 6 already, and step 7 is go for an actual flight. All right, so let's do it. Cockpit orientation. So let's find out where everything is, and these are the questions you should ask yourself. When I'm taking this plane for a flight now, it tells me in the checklist I got to do this, 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 and this. Where are those things anyway? Every plane's different, right? So let me just help with that. All right. Now, certainly your checklist, as you click the eye, will illuminate it and send you over there. Okay, you can learn that way, but we'll do it here real quick and show you how fast this can be. So examples of what you need to know. In the real plane, for real pilots, they have to know where these are instinctively, including all the circuit breakers. Now, a circuit breaker check is just putting your thumb to find out which one's popped. They're all in, we're good. I don't have to read them. All right, and we do this on GA planes, right in front of us under the yoke, Cessna 172, Cherokee, whatever. We just run our thumb across. Primer, master, mags on both, circuit breakers are all in. Switches and fuel and everything, temperature, pressure. So, in the normal downwind checks that we do in a real plane, we're actually doing the same thing. We're just putting our thumb across all the circuit breakers. They're all in. We're good. And no surprises. Matter of fact, the flight of the Intruder, they actually, was it the canopy? Something didn't work, and they actually had to reset the circuit breakers. Whew. While they're being shot at, while they've got smoke and fire, and while they got panic, and like, wow, what the stuff they did back then. So where's the fuel tank? And there's a fuel switch that we have to turn on. Yes, we've seen one already in my picture. All right, there's a fuel shut-off switch that we have to push down to make the fuel go on. Right, remember that? And pump selector, there are some switches for that are not operative. Over right here, right above where it says tank. These switches right here are all your fuel selector switches, but we just leave those alone for now. Where are the gear, the flaps, the landing light switches? Where are they? I'm going to show you the 10 views that are built in, and we find them from those views, right? Where's the wing fold? Will you first pull this thing out of the aircraft carrier from the hangar? The wings are folded. You pull it out of a hangar, they're going to want the wings folded anyway, just to save space in a hangar. So one of the first things we have to do, well, we could just taxi all the way to the active if we want to. But at some point, it's in our checklist. We got to put those wings out. We're not going flying. So we got to get those wings out. It's in the checklist. Follow the checklist. Wing fold and the canopy. I like keeping canopies open while I'm actually taxiing because some of them are very hot in real life. And we typically close the canopy or the little doors in the Cessna, or the little windows in the Cessna, anything at all in, the middle of July. And so we got to know where that canopy switch is. How do we do that, right? Where's the pitot heat? Do we need that? Where's the speed brake? There's obviously not carburetor heat. We got 2 jet engines. The speed brake I talked about, where is that anyway? And then finally, where are the circuit breakers? Yeah, I know it's something we don't need to do in the sim, but if it says circuit breaker check, we know where they are. That's what we want to know, all right? So here's the complex cockpit. This is it in its entirety without showing you the circuit breakers. We've got the center console all the way back, and we have to, way back here, there's your wing. Can you see that? Yeah, it's hard to see, right? I'll show you close up. There's your wing fold right there. Your canopy's up here, right there. This is your canopy eject to get rid of it because you're going to eject. And we'll talk about more of the things that you see here in a closer view. But, there's everything in front of you. Look at how packed it is surrounding each of the pilots here. There's a lot of stuff. We're not going to learn it all. All right, here it is with the wings folded. Before you unfold them and away you go. You can also put your handle on the plane. Look at this. There's my handle. It's on the plane. And this is actually, I love the 3D modeling, and I love what they've done here. This looks gorgeous, what they've done here. Must have done a lot of work in there. In most cases, when I review these things, you guys, I talk to the developers. Sometimes developers are on stream with me on Twitch live, talking about how many hours and how much work and where they had stumbles. I haven't had a conversation with this developer yet, so I'm working on it. I'll get there. All right. Control 1. Now, you guys know, you've seen some of my sessions before. Hitting Control key and the 1 key gives you this view. If you got 2 pilots here, it'll give you both pilots in their view. Okay, you've seen some videos like this where they're showing you taking off and leaving the airport behind. Might be a nice view for nice effects, but I find no functional reason to use this view. There's no buttons we can push. Even those circuit breakers, there's nothing there, right? There's nothing we can do here except look at it and go, cool, all right, while we're flying. Control 2, if I were to hit Control 2 right now, here's the view. Okay, that's the right seat. The right seat is actually lower than the left seat so that the pilot can see over their head. They can see full view all the way around, that idea. But none of these are functional, so what the heck, Control 3, another view that's, I guess, if you're coming in for a carrier landing, if you're coming in for a normal runway landing on a normal circuit, you might see the 45 degree to make your turn to base. I don't know. Again, it's one of those views I may not ever use. This one I will use because it gets me to this panel without messing around trying to get there. It gets me close. I could even use my right mouse button to move further down this panel, I got to hit a few of these lights here. Anti-skid light, your oxygen, some of your lights down here. I got to hit some of those along the way. I actually have to move my throttle forward and see the start button, move this throttle forward, see the start button. So this is a good view, Control 4. Now we go to Control 5. It's your typical stuff over here, your engine instruments. You can see there's your gear lever with its lock pin. You can also see this is the parking brake coming out, this rod right here. We don't see the handle over here, but we do see there's the parking brake. So you see, the important stuff right here if you want a closer view. Control 6 gives you that center kind of console. We know most things over here don't work. Matter of fact, now that I'm looking at it, none of these over here work, but certainly a few things here work. And we're getting a closer view of, there's your hook at the back for carrier landing right there. There's your canopy right there. I'm pointing it out there, you guys, because this one is your jettison. Do not jettison because you can't get it back till you restart the sim or restart the plane. All right. You can't just, even when you land, you can't just throw a canopy back on, right? So this one ejects your canopy. Whew, it's gone. Here is your remove before flight. From this tag, very ingeniously, this tag gets rid of the chocks, the tags, remove before flight tags, the bug covers, and gets your plane ready for flight. So one simple little click and we're good. All right. And that's how you get rid of it. Control 6. All right. Control 7 lets us see the comm radios and other things in the center console. The ones that you'll probably be more interested in, you guys, is the autopilot panel right here. I'm probably not using it in my demonstration. I want to fly it manually. That's where I get the most amount of thrill anyway. Here we see the wing fold right here. It says right there, wing fold. And when you look back at it, when you're sitting in the seat and looking back at it, it makes sense. Here's another thing. Here's the circuit breaker panel. When you look back at that, you're going to see it upside down. Because that's the way they're looking at it. They're actually looking at it under their arm, upside down, hitting some circuit breakers. Wow. All right. Control 9 is back to almost normal. We're seeing mostly cockpit. If you're doing a night flight and it's all pitch black, you see nothing anyway. Let's call this the IFR mode, right? And then back to Control 0, we can see our, what's it called? Our carrier catapult lever. If you hover on it, it tells you what it is, but it lowers the lever at the front. I'll give you a demonstration of that. All right, the circuit breakers, the last question here, our circuit breakers are beside your seats, behind you. So the only way to see them is to reach back with one of your arms and look under your arm. Now you can read it upside down. Okay. Cool. And there I've turned them around so you can sort of read them. All right. Trims and fuel management. There's fuel management. I don't think any of those work. Haven't used them anyway. Rudder trim here and elevator trim. This one I do use just to see when I'm in level flight, what number's on there. This says nose up, nose down. This looks like level, but typically for takeoff, like in the Cirrus jet, we were +6. In the Spitfire, we're like +4 or something like that. We're always some setting different than level flight. The rudder trim, also like a Spitfire, rudder trim is, I don't know, 2 to 4 positive, because you're going to have all that torque from that 12-cylinder engine. So, these could be different numbers. I don't see in our basic checklist what these numbers should be. So I leave them default and away we go. All right. Let's finally take it for a spin. You believe this briefing is, I even spoke fast, but this is something I had to prepare, get you ready for this plane. The best lesson though is to get in it. Listen to it, feel it, touch it, try things. And if you wreck it, try again. It's a simulator. All right. So that's what we'll do. So practice the, follow the InSim checklist, practice your views, get used to those views and using your right mouse. I need to go over and check that. How do I get to it? All right. Perform cold and dark startup. I'll show you that right now. Takeoff and cruise settings. What was VR? Who remembers what VR is? Oh yeah, you guys aren't live with me right now. I can't wait for an answer. All right. So we just have to go back and look at the chart, you guys. We only need to know a few things. We need to know VR. We need to know normal cruise. And typically normal cruise, you pull back your throttle, 70% maybe. What do we need to know? Approach speeds, depending on your weight. My AOA indicator, so, find those main things at least to start with, and then you can confidently get it off the ground and bring it back. Okay. So takeoff and cruise settings. Test altitude specs and stalls. I tried to get to 43,000 feet. Didn't make it past 37, but what a view, you know. Bring it home for a landing. Put on your air brakes, go straight down. Let's do that, all right? Okay, let's go. Long Island, MacArthur Airport, KISP. All right, now I'm going to come back here when I'm finished the demonstration and show you the last part, because I got 3 challenges for you. Things that you'll want to try once you've nailed this. And some of you will nail this because you're already flying jets, you're already landing on carriers, you just want to try something new. The majority of you watching this are either tried it and having trouble, or you're thinking of it and wondering what it's like. That's the 2 main categories who come to this video right now. All right, and so I'm going to shake it down, take it out, show you how it works, and then you can take it further from there. All right, I'm not the expert. I've just had some experience with this plane now. All right, and I've already tried it on the Twitch channel, and I messed up the landing live, doing a live demonstration in front of a bunch of people. My sim started to stutter as I was on final. Stutter, and I'm trying to pull up, and it's not pulling up, and it finally, after a stutter, it does see that I'm pulling up, and it goes way up. And it's like, on an approach, that's an instant go around. You know, I mean, there's something in my sim as I approach this airport, just kept jittering. So I hope that doesn't happen now. I've reset my computer. I've reset the sim. I'm going to start again. And let's see how that goes in the demonstration. All right, let's do a demo. Come fly with me. Let's get into this airplane. You can see in the default configuration, it has the chocks on, and it has covers on everything, all the bird covers, etc. And it's got things we have to pull off here and there, as you can see. Looks great. Love the detail. Love the 3D modeling on here. Looks great. And let's go unfold the wings and get this thing prepped and ready to go. We'll consider this short circular look around as our walk around. That's what we'll call it. I've got this default configuration, no weapons. These are external fuel tanks that came with it with the 50% stock weight and balance. So we'll just fly it as the stock weight and balance that we see. First thing you'd want to do is to remove all of the chocks, and you know there's probably a checklist for that at the moment, but we'll just go like that, and you can see we have everything off now. The bird covers are gone, the chocks are gone, and everything is visible, and we're ready to roll. So at some point we'll bring the wings down, but we don't need to do that yet. Let's just come in here and just start looking around. All right. The first thing you should do is try all of your control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. to get used to all of that. What I'm going to do is just go straight to the checklists and let's see how it goes. From this view, you can see everything that's lower that we need. And then from this view, anything more that we might need as we go along. All right, let's just start with going to the checklist. And we'll start with the cockpit preparation. As you can see here, parking brake on. And again, you can just do, just as a reminder, do the eyeball icon and it sends you there and it gives you the view and it shows you a highlighted area. Now, all the way in is off, all the way out is on. So that's on, we can just checklist that item. Chocks remove, we did that with the remove before flight. And now we want to open the canopy. Make it faster and easier, I'll just use the eyeball to get us to the canopy lever right here. Open the canopy. Had to turn up the volume for that. All right, and then that's open. Now we want to do the ladder. Go here. The ladder is actually right, oh, I can see it already. The ladder is right here. I'm going to show you this in a minute, like that. There are 4 bars here. The first one is the ladder. Boom. When you do the ladder, it brings down both the ladders down here. Now, Pilot Viz and the rest of these for Pilot Viz and Copilot, etc. There's also 3 more here. This says Navigator Viz, which is your bomber navigator. This says Pilot Viz, which is you. And then underneath is actually your name tag. And when you look back outside the plane now, you can see I've got firewall on the side of my plane, which is my handle. And you'll also notice we have 2 people in the plane. I want you to notice the height of each of them. I mentioned this already in the presentation. The navigator's here, the pilot's up here. Pilot has to see everything all the way around. And the navigator's down here with all that huge panel for navigating and bombing. Interesting configuration, isn't it? That's the way it is. Back inside the plane, let's tick a few items here. Where we started, back here we did the ladder, pilot viz, co-pilot viz, and pilot name viz. Main power on. Now main power, when you take a look at it, it's on the center console at the back, right underneath this thing, way back here. And so is the, we take a look at the avionics masters back here also. I'm just going to use my switches in my home cockpit to turn that on. And I'll also hit the avionics master at the time because that'll be coming up next anyway. So navigation lights also, if we look where those are, the light panels on the left side behind the throttles. And you can see some of those switches here when you just go like this. All right, and I'm going to switch that on. It's right here. That's our main power, navigation lights, cabin lights as required. Now you can just look down the list here. We've got floods, which you can't really see right now. All right, I should actually click on that to show you cabin lights as required. And you know, we got that one is your navigation lights. This one's your formation lights on, which are tiny little bright lights. Here's another one right here. That's your strobe light, which they're calling anti-collision lights. At some point, we've got anti-skid coming on too. So let's just go good and good. As I mentioned, I'm going to go pretty fast through this. I'm going to start here. The avionics master is on. I turned that on already in the center console. Gen 1. Okay, so we know where those are in the center panel. We're going to do both Gen 1 and Gen 2. So here's generator 1, generator 2. And as I do that, some of these annunciator panel lights are going off. When we're ready to taxi, these should all be off. All right, so we've got both generators on. And then we did our avionics master, Gen 1, Gen 2, anti-collision lights, which was strobes we did. Fuel 2 over here in the down position allows fuel, as we talked about. Tick that item. Throttle position, 20%. Let's go over there to the throttle now. And there's where I need control 4. Control 4 helps with this. I'm going to use my manual throttle with a split. And I'm going to just put number 2 up. And when I do that, I am seeing the button to start right there. Look, engine start. All right, so engine 2 start. Boom, just like that. Turn up the volume a little bit so you can hear that. I'll have to turn the volume down once the engines are running though. So that's throttle position 20%, start, and then back to idle. All right, let it run up from there. 1, 2, and 3. Engine 2 instruments rising. So we just want to watch that. We can hear it. It's going to get really loud. I'm going to pull that back a bit. And we can see it starting to rise here. This is RPMs. And you should also see the RPMs go down here also right there, which is hard to see, but we've got this visual right here. And it's figuring it all out. Away we go. EGT's rising a bit. Fuel flow is there, of course. Let's go to the next one. The next one is Fuel 1. And with Fuel 1, we're going to do the same procedure now with Fuel 1. Fuel 1, we're going to make sure that it's down to turn the fuel on. Gens are already running. And now we're going to go and do throttle position 20% again. I'm going to go to control 4. Sort of situate that the way I can. Throttle position for the first one, there's 20%. And there's the start button right there. Engine start. And we've already done that. Throttle position, engine 1 start. And then put the throttle back to idle. They spelled it wrong. Wow, IDEL, idle. Back to idle. Good. And then engine 1 instrument, when it gets to 60%, we're ready to roll. All right, let's just have a look at the instruments. We'll see them starting to roll here. Let's see. Yeah, 60 would be 3, 4, 5, 6. We're at 6, almost 7. So when this one gets to almost 7, we're ready to roll. All right, that's the idea behind it. All right, after start, boom, let's go over oxygen on. The oxygen is over here in the left panel again. We've also got, I think, one other switch we got here. Oh yeah, the anti-skid we'll have to do next. Anti-skid is actually right there. So I'll just go 1, 2, remove the ladder. We know how to do that. We're going to go up here to this very first one way at the top. And we're going to go boom. And up go the ladders. Sweet. Like that. Canopy close. Well, I'm going to close it before we take off. I'm going to taxi a bit first. I'm going to turn that down even more because it's getting kind of noisy. Let's pretend we just put our headset on. Canopy close. Wait, we'll come to that. Annunciator panels, there should be no lights. Look. All done. And there actually is a lot more steps than this. There's the whole navigator procedure steps. The whole walk around thing too. I mean, there's so many other switches we're supposed to be setting. All our fuel switches down here. So we're making it easier for us here in the sim. Annunciator panel has no lights. I'm going to check that. I'm not going to check the canopy yet because it's not done. When I'm finished taxiing, we'll check the canopy. But folding wings on required. Now, because I'm sitting here at an airport, I don't have to keep them folded to taxi, so I'm going to actually open the wings. Let's go see that in action. As you remember from the picture before, here's our folding wings right here. As I click that, we're going to jump outside and watch that in action. Oh, I already put them down. Did I show that already? I guess I showed it. I don't remember showing it. Okay. I thought I would leave it up. Maybe I already took it down. So let's just do that again. Boom. You can hear the hydraulics in there making it work. Okay, we're good. Taxi light on. We'll just come over here and do it from my cockpit. Boom, you'll see the light come on down here. Taxi light is on. Parking brake is off so that we can taxi. So I'm not going to go any further than that. We don't need to do any more. Look at this thing. Isn't that sweet? Back in the plane, normal view. I'm going to start taxiing now. For some reason, my head tracker is not on. You can just give me a second with that. I'm going to do a quick check here. Why my head tracker doesn't work. I like to look around when I'm taxiing. Just come over here. OB. No, it's supposed to be on. And track IR too. Huh. Don't have that. Something's taken over here. That's okay. We'll do it without. We just use our left, that switch, right, that switch. And when we're outside the plane, we can look down, looking cool. We can look behind us. So we'll just use the normal stuff. We've got the canopy open right now. All right, ready to taxi. We get our clearance. Today I'm not using ATC. Normally I use Say Intentions. I'm loving how that's developing. Look, I'm doing a great job. SayIntentions.ai for all my AI stuff, for all my talking. So what I'll do right now is I'll start taxiing. I'm going to pull the parking brake. Boom. Ready to rock. I've got my over 60% here on my percent RPMs. And now I'm just going to use my throttle, link the two together, and start turning. And away I go. Still got the canopy open because it's a hot July day. Here's what it looks like. Better see where I'm going here. Okay. Let's get out there. So the runway's right there in front of me. I'm just going to come down here to the edge. I want to give you an idea what it's like when you're taxiing. Pulling back some power here. So when you're taxiing, just use the heads-up display. Now let me just do two more things here. I'm going to stop right here, like that. I've got very sensitive rudder pedals for some reason. I've stopped right there. I've got the center line right down the middle. What does that look like? You can see here, pretty close. That's what you want to look at. That's what you want to see when you're trying to taxi. Just give you an idea. Right down the middle like that. Let's bring it back to here. I want this view when we take off. I want you to see it lifting off. I'm going to show you that view. Okay. I want to dim this VDI. It's nice, but I don't need it that bright. There it is dimmed. It kind of makes the moving map crazy, but I can use something else like, even Little Nav Map to make that happen. Let's open up Little Nav Map, and that way I don't have the advantage of all the navigation equipment, and I'm not going to be looking at this little map here. So I'll give you an idea where we are. I just want to show you we are over here at Long Island MacArthur. KISP is where I'm actually flying out from, which is close to where their headquarters was for Grumman. And you can see here I'm on Long Island here, New York in North America. That's where I'm flying out of. And I'll just stay around the area. lots of options here, and I'll be traveling at fast speed, so that'll be a great thing to look at. I dimmed this already. I also want to put on over here in the far right, I want to put on the reticles up here. And you can see I'm a little bit off the center line now, so these help me with my steering. They also help me with my landing. And as I mentioned, look, I am a little off the center line, right? So that's a good thing for guessing how far you are. Let me just center it back again to about here, like that. Nope, as soon as I put the brakes on, it wasn't the same brakes on both of them. Right there. It doesn't matter. That you're getting an idea. We're close. Right? Get to one side or the other of that line, right? All right. So that's the plan. Let's get up to the runway. Let's get rolling. Rolling on the river. Let's just have a look at this and get to where we're going. Back over in that line. Get on that line. You don't have to be exact, but the wider your wingspan, the more important it is to stay on that line, because the wider the wingspan, the more you might hit something, or in this case, you might even run over a taxiway light. Oops, there goes another one. So we're going to just hold here for 1 second, make sure everything's in order. Temperature and pressures are in the green. All our engine instruments are good. I like how simple it is on this, but I'm not sure if in real life it's that simple. But we're looking at everything. Our hydraulics are good and everything else is, all the pressures are fine. All right, just wanted to show you, I won't be using it for landing, but I want to show you the hook. So let's just come back out here, come around to here so that you can see the hook in action. Boom, and there it is. You can use that for your carrier landings. I won't do one of those today. But next week I'll be practicing a lot on the Super Carrier Pro and I'll be getting good at it. So, all right, let's go. Life is good. Again, what we should have done at the start, you start off a little bit, you test your brakes, and you start off again. That's how it goes. Look at our AOA indicator in the left corner there. While we're on the ground, just taxiing around, it's sitting there at 0. Angle of attack, 0. Well, we don't even have any velocity. We have no wind hitting us and to speak of. Out we go. Let's go fly. Got this thing started up, ready to roll. At that hold short line, I should have closed my canopy. Do not pull this one. That's your jettison. We're going to pull that one. Close the canopy. Things are quieter now. Rocket, we're ready to rock and roll. One last check. I did a check while I was taxiing. I'll do it here. One last check of all the surfaces. And we are good. Rocking and rolling. We have our flaps already set. I don't know if I showed you that already. It wasn't actually in the checklist, but there's your takeoff flaps right there, first notch. And we're ready to rock and roll. Good thing we got headsets on, we got the canopy closed. What are we looking for our VR? Do you remember? It's going to be after 120, right? Coming up on 120 now, right about here is our VR. Let's pull the nose, see what happens. We've changed our angle of attack. Take a look at the number. We're at something like 8 or 9. We're picking up more speed now. We're heading up past 150, 160, 70, something around there. And we are moving. This baby is rocking. Now, funny display, isn't it? The green with the white clouds. Let's just lower the nose a bit, make sure of everything. Nobody's in front of us. We're going to do a sharp climb in a minute. Lowering the nose, picking up the flaps, the gear, cleaning the whole thing up. I delayed it so you can see the action. Look at that. Now we're looking pretty clean. There's our clean plane. That's what we're after. Let's see what this angle looks like now when we go forward. All right, we're going straight up. I want to watch my speed when I go straight up. I'm not going to go perfectly vertical, maybe 60 to 70 degrees up. We don't want to get below 150 or certainly below 120. That's the plan, you guys. All right, you ready, set? Let's go. Take it up. Do a visual out the side just to get an idea what our angle is. I'd say that's pretty good right there. Let's see if we can hold that. Taking a look on the outside. Not a bad angle. Let's come out a bit. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to just come out a bit so we can see the angle. There we go. Level the wings. Bring it back a bit more. Let's see what we get for our climb rate here. We're climbing in on 5,800, almost 6,000 feet per minute right here. That's what we're doing. Our speed's getting down to about 150. I'm going to pull it back just a touch more. Can we get it up to 6 before we lose speed? Touch more. We're climbing still at 58, not even 6, and we're getting down to stall speed. We're going to lose a wing. I'm going to bring the nose down. We would have dropped the wing, but we're certainly at plenty of altitude here. We're sitting at 12,000 feet, you guys. And I want to make sure I get back to some kind of normal speed before I attempt to go any higher. Just to zoom in here and just have a look at that altitude. Yeah, 12,000 something. Oh, we're actually dropping, so I'm just going to pull it back to level. Somewhere around here. And you'd probably trim that. Looking out the side again, look at that view. That's beautiful. All right, that's 12,000. Let's take it up higher now. We've got lots of speed. Let's do something a little more comfortable where we can hold the speed on climb. Interestingly, it says we're at 5,800. Does this thing go higher than 58? I don't think you can achieve 7,000 feet per minute because it doesn't have it. But I guess you'd have to have some other way to measure it. We're going about 220 knots. We're climbing through 15,000. Let me get back to level. This does help. You can tell when you're not level. You can see this. Let's just do a test here. Same as this meter here. Same as this instrument. But this instrument has some graduations on it. So this is actually a better instrument to use. But this gives you a quick visual, that's for sure, of your attitude. So that would be probably level without looking at my vertical speed indicator because it's pretty much in the middle. Climbing a little here. Right there's about level. And you can see our vertical speed's getting down to where it should be. All right, let's go back up a little further now. I'm getting some jitters again. It's happening. So something in my sim is causing me to have some breezes there. I'm not sure why. And we're almost vertical going up. What could possibly be causing sim stutters? And it might even be my operating system hard drive could be running out of space, or you never know. You never know what's happening. So with sims, they really work a system hard. Climbing through 20,000 feet, you guys. It's going to take a while. I'm still full power, or what they say, combat power, military power, whatever word you want to use for that. I am flying. And climbing up to 21, 20, yeah, it's only at 21. And I'm at 150 knots. I don't want to go much slower than that, so I'm going to lower the nose a touch. Make sure I stay at 150. I am clean, nice and clean, meaning I don't have anything else sticking out. No gear, no flaps, no air brakes. But we're going to turn around and go back, all right? Because right now, if you take a look outside, we are climbing over the shore. You can see the shore below me. You can see the shore there. And we're just going to come back from being over the ocean. We're starting to get up there, aren't we? 22,000 feet. We don't have to reach the 43 that they mentioned. We're at 22. Here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to take it around to the right. I mean, I'm going to have to look to the right, see, make sure there's nobody there. Nobody there. We're good. If I had my head tracker, I'd be looking all around. We're going to come around to the right. I want to show you a couple of things here. First, we're going to get it back to level. We're going to pick up some speed and follow the coastline as we go along. Let's pick up some speed here. It's coming up. Speed's coming up fast. And we want to get this thing going at level. I'm actually surprised. Something feels like it's out. Brakes are not out. Flaps are up. Gears up. Looks like everything's clean. It's taken us a while to pick up speed. I've actually had to lose some altitude to get some speed here, but we'll get it. Right? The coast should be back there to the right. I see it out my right window. Almost there. Speed's coming up to probably 300, maybe, if I look closer on that. 300 knots. Yeah, 300 knots. I'm over 300 knots now as I climb back toward the shore. And I have had it all the way up to 400 knots, but nothing more. All right, so we're following along the coast. Let's see what we can do from here. I'm going to take it to the outside. I want to show you close up some of the nice effects, of course, of planes like this in the sim after all these updates. As I pull G's now, see some of that happening. Looking good. Nice visual. Come around this way, pull some G's on a turn, get that nose down. And just pull that around. Not pulling up something on that. I guess I lost a lot of speed. Hold on a sec. Pick up some more speed. Do this at altitude just to play with the plane, get to know it as I pull up. Didn't snap the way I thought it would. Coming around on a corner. That's the sort of effect I'm expecting. Thought it would be a better roll rate, but back the other way now. Let's just turn it around. Try that. Hard to tell which one's ocean and which one's cloud. We're actually upside down. We're above the clouds. Does that look like... That's very deceiving. That looks like ocean below and clouds above. We're just above the cloud deck upside down. Isn't that amazing? All right. Flip it around. And head down. Now on heading down, we're going to pick up a lot of speed. Got some altitude to play with here in 20,000 feet. I'm going to take it down almost vertical, see what we can do, and then we'll put on some air brakes. Almost vertical and head inbound like that. I don't think we can get any more vertical than that. Isn't that a visual? I think I better do something. How about we put on some air brakes? Air brakes! I'm going to pull back power. Put on the air brakes. Oh, poor thing's just vibrating like mad. Air brakes are on. We're slowing down. That was close. And these are what the air brakes look like, as you saw from the picture. And that'll keep slowing me down because it's more and more drag. Not more and more, but it's going to be continuous drag. I'm still flying. I still have lift. If I gave it full power, I can still fly with those on, just like as if I was coming in for the approach. I'm going to give it some more power. I'm going to stay there at that speed. Maybe a little bit more power. And I've got air brakes on full. And I've got a steady speed. And this is what you'll want when you come into land. You want your air brakes on. You want your flaps down. You want your gear down. And then find that steady speed. So let's do that one more time. From the outside, I'm going to take the brakes off. By the way, they can be half. It can be any variable you want along the way. You'll find what works for you. All right, I'm going to give it full power again. Flaps are off. Gear is up. I'm going to dive down a bit and then start climbing. I want to simulate a landing at altitude so that we got time to play. So let's just take it up here about that angle there. If I can level my wings, that should be level. Here, you want to see some nice view here? Look at that. Ooh, baby. Climbing up without excessive climb. Looking great. Taking it up to, what am I at? 6,000 feet? That'll work. 6,000 feet. So I'm going to just turn it around now. I'm going to simulate coming in for landing. So there's my ground. I'm going to pick a spot. I'm going to pick the spot something like in the distance. Something like right in my reticles. I see some type of peninsula right there underneath my gun sight. There's my peninsula. Alright, first thing I want to do is pull back power to about half. Let that settle in. Speed brakes can go on anytime you want. Alright, so I'm just going to do that. Show you my speed brakes. I'm going to put them on full. There they go. That'll slow me down even more as if I'm coming in for landing. I'm going to settle this down. If you remember, we want the needle to be to the right. That's what we're going to try for. And this is only recent. I've had troubles with my sim. I'm going to have to go fix that. Where I've had these little freezing moments. Could be my cache. Could be NVIDIA files. Anyway, I'm trying to slow it down. And now I want to put gear out. This should make it, again, a little more dirty. We're about 3 miles out now. Maybe 4 miles out. I want to make sure I'm stable on the way in. You see, I've lost only a little bit of power on that, so I'm going to pull back my power even more. I'll bring up the power as the flaps come down. All right, so I've pulled back power now to about a third. If it showed me power at the same time, it would look something like this. It still isn't a third. It looks like it's still half, even though my throttles are almost at 0. I'm going to take my throttles to 0. We're getting closer. All right, now my speed's getting down to where I want it to be, and I think it's 170 or 160. You can drop the flaps. Here's my first flap coming in straight in for my landing. And you'll see my speed drop even more. Remember, we want it to be straight, horizontal is what we're after. Like that. I've got one flap, I've got gear down, I've got air brakes. Now, at that speed right there, I'm taking my air brakes to half now. I just dropped them to half. They're not full air brakes. Getting kind of mushy on the controls. You can see my speed is where I want it to be. Now I'm going to give it full flaps and a bit of power. That should compensate for the extra drag of the flaps. I'm heading in for my landing. You can see my speed is right. My AOA isn't right because my altitude to start with was a long, probably long 3 degree. And when you come in on a carrier, it won't be a 3 degree landing like in an airliner. So my speed is right. I've got it stable. I've got it set for pretty much where I want it to be. That's 124 where I said I wanted it to be. Let's say I was going to land right here. How could I get my AOA up? Let's try something. Let's pull up a bit, but I'm losing speed, airspeed. I'm going to give it some more power. Pulling it up a bit, giving it more power. The more power gives me more lift. It also helps keep that airspeed from dropping anymore. Does that help my AOA? There's my AOA right there. Perfectly. Take a look over there. 20, 10, 15, 20. That's 15. Straight across. Straight across. I don't see the runway. So I am going way too slow. I'm about to stall. I'm going to put the nose down. Power. Air brakes off. I almost stalled right there on that point where I'm supposed to land. So I noticed that's how we experiment. Let me just clean it up a little. I'll take one flap away, one at a time, make sure I have positive rate. I got some positive rate. I'm climbing. I got take my other flap off and I take my gear up. Now we're going to try it on a runway. That's what the simulator's for. You know what I mean? We got full power now. We have no air brakes, no flaps, no gear. Away we go. Come back around where we know there's some runways. Somewhere around here. There's something here somewhere. I happen to know one right up here, so anywhere on Long Island, there's 4 or 5 of the big ones here. And let's try to get to somewhere around circuit height. So we're at 3,000. That's a normal intercept. 2,500 to 3,000 is a normal intercept for an ILS. We're not going to do an ILS, but if that's the normal intercept, we can do that. Typically, on a carrier, when you come around, you wouldn't be doing that, but you do come in at 3,000 on a straight in, especially if you're doing an ILS. All right, we got an ILS approach coming in here to, I don't know what this is. Gabreski. Anybody know what that is? You've heard of it? Gabreski. We're coming up here. I'll just turn here where the normal ILS is and head into here. They're saying the elevation here is probably very close to sea level, 56 feet. So circuit height would be 1,000, right? We're sitting at 4,000. Way too high, way too fast. I'm going to start bringing back some speed here and try to keep my altitude a little lower. 5,000 feet, I think it says. Ridiculous. Yeah, we're at 5,500. All right, cutting power and dropping. And it's back that way, so it's probably right around there. Somewhere over there. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is. I see it. Amongst the clouds, yeah. There it is. Let's just drop down here and turn around. Nice sharp turn. Drop down here. We're at 4,000. Coming down to 3. As I turn around and do a nice sharp turn toward the runway. It's not in sight yet, but it's not far away. So I've got pulled it back. I'm going to level off here at about 2,000 feet. I'm coming back towards the same thing. I'll have to intercept it. I'm going to go a little further here. This thing just travels. Didn't even anticipate that. Let's just go this way and let's just let it drop down to my 1,000 feet. So right now we're at 27. Take it down a little more. I'm going to put some air brakes on. Oops, like that. And I'm going to pull it back once I intercept that ILS. I'm just doing a visual, you guys, using Little Nav Map. This is where you want your instruments. You want to be comfortable with your instruments, you guys, because you got to be able to see where you're headed. And then now I'm going to make a turn and start heading into the runway. So what do we want now? The speed's great. Gear down works great. Even first flap, we'll do both at the same time. Things are starting to get dirty outside. Yeah, looking good. Got to watch the air brake though. The air brake can mess you up. It can make you slow down to the point where you just fall out of the sky. We're almost at our optimum speed where I'm going to pull back my air brake to half. And that's what I just did. there's the runway in sight. Let's head for that. Let's hope I don't have the freezes that I have coming into the runway the last time I did this. Our speed is right, and our AOA is almost right. Look, speed's a little slow. So pitch down and increase my power. And I'll get that speed up again, like that. Now I'm going to give it more flap. Don't necessarily need full flap here, but look at that AOA. I can't get the AOA right. And I'm sitting at 1,000 feet at 1 mile out. That should be right. I'm getting the jitters again here, so that shouldn't be the right time to end up doing this. All right, let's see if I were to pull back some power now. What would happen to my AOA? I'm going to land it anyway. Yeah, I'm not getting that I'm not getting the horizontal needle on my AOA indicator. This is looking good. It's a nice approach. It's the right speed. I could even go a bit slower. I'm going to pull back a bit of power and pull up a bit. Pull up a bit towards the horizon. That's what my AOA is supposed to look like. Don't like it. My speed is a bit slow. Too low. Stretch it out just to the runway, which is right there. Yeah, it was too low, really. And we're down. Cut the power. Not bad, but I would say that last part, I was dropping faster than I should have. Trying to look at that AOA indicator. The point is, make it smooth, make it a nice approach, make it stabilized. The AOA indicator we can work on. What factors would control that? Obviously the angle. Yeah, I can turn off here. Sort of turn off here. I'm going faster than I think I am. But obviously the angle, you know, the nose angle makes a difference. The throttle makes a difference, how much acceleration you have. But the most important part is the speed. You cannot let your plane stall, especially when you're low and slow. That's the most important part. Keep it at 120 or above. And ideally, we were supposed to be at 124 straight across. I did get this when I had a nose-high attitude and some low power, but I was sinking pretty fast. My speed was dropping, and my whole plane was below the glide slope if I were actually on a glide slope. So to get this optimum, I didn't have the right angle on that. I didn't have the right combination of angles. And that's something you'll just want to practice, you guys, as you go along. For sake of time in this video, I'm not going to go back to my original airport. I'm going to leave it here. I don't even know what this airport is. Let's just park it right here. Haven't been here before, but here we are. I'm past the hold short line, so I'll clean it up. I'll take my air brakes off. I'll bring my flaps up. I wanted to show you too, while we're here, before I shut it down, I wanted to show you, as you put your flaps down here, notice the slats open. So if you were to look at this wing, a lot of you know this, but some of you are tuned in who don't know this. And so hopefully it'll help. You can see the shape of the wing. There we go. That's a better view right there. The shape of the wing, look, it's drooping here and it's drooping there. We've made this curvature of the wing that wasn't there before. It was straight back when it was clean, like this. Let's put the flaps up. Now we've got that airflow going straight back and over. All right, so this is why they do this. This is automatic. These front ones, you can't control those. All you can do is drop the flaps. You can see how that works. Pretty cool. And you see this also when you look at airliners too. You're looking out your passenger window. You see those things start moving. These things start moving as they're getting ready for takeoff. Pretty neat stuff. And then here's that close-up. There's the actual air brake right there at the tip. And here's what it looks like when you open it. A little bit, a little more, and all the way up. Look at that. There's a lot of resistance there to the wind, to the flow. But you still got lift on the wings. It's just an air brake. Every plane's different. What a wonderful plane. I really appreciate what they've done with it. They've gone, I would say, 90%. There's some stuff missing. Not sure if it's my technique or if it's your AOA indicator or there's other things I need to do. I'm going to put in more hours. I don't have more than 12 hours on this plane so far. You probably want to put in 20 or 30 to get really good at these things. But it was a great start. Let's just do a quick shutdown. I'll show you how easy it is without the checklist. All I'm going to do is come over here, make sure I'm on idle, make sure my brakes are set right here. And I'm going to simply go over and do the cutoff now. Cutoff on 2. cut off on one. Just like that. What a sound. What I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. That's a nice sound. I'm sure these things are supposed to do something. Don't know if it's reverse thrust or something. I shouldn't be there for reverse thrust, but anyway, something's going on there that I can't recall what it should really do. All right, as the engines wind down, we put on the chocks. Sure we do. We just put on the chock. I guess we have to shut it down completely. All right, all switches. Avionics is off. That's off. Ladder's out. No, ladder's out. There we go. Wow, listen to that. And now we've got the chocks on. So I want to jettison the canopy for you just so you can see that in action. We could have done it while we were flying. Look at that baby. Let's see that in action right here. I tried to do it at the same time. No? How's that? Good thing we're on the ground. Eject, eject, eject. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being patient with me. And that was it was decent enough anyway. I'll leave it in the first try. But we'll see how it goes. And we'll see you again on the next video when we start looking at more of the same. More planes. Every new plane that comes out, we'll do something with it. I'm going to come back and do another video on the Vision Jet because I did it on Twitch, but I never did it as a complete video on YouTube. So that will be coming soon. I'll work on that one next. So we're back on the ground in one piece. And now I want you to take it further, right? You know, right here it says smile, guys. No matter how that worked for you, smile, all right? You had an idea what it works like. You saw what challenges I had. You saw me fumbling with views. I tried most of the things that I said I would try, right? But now, in step number 8, try a night flight. Well, we'll give you a taste of that before the video is done. Just a taste, all right? Because I'm still practicing my carrier landings with Super Carrier Pro, and I'm learning how to use Super Carrier Pro. And that's actually in a live Twitch session next week, and I'll make a lesson out of it. But here's a sample, just a sample of what it looks like. Here's the red floodlight inside. This is actually the dimmed VDI, but this certainly looks good. Your moving map looks good at night. And it's actually cool looking. It actually is very impressive at night when you get it set up like this, right? So here's some action items for you, everybody. You ready for this? It's been a long haul. I appreciate you hanging in there with me on the channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe, do a like, give me an idea, type in some comments. I like to hear what you have to say. I'm looking for constructive comments. If you really don't like what I'm doing here, then don't come back to the channel. I mean, I'm really being honest with you guys. If there's something you're criticizing, if it would help me to be a better pilot, to be a better demonstrator, certainly help me with that. Okay, and tell me what I've missed or tell me what I could do to make it better. Try a night flight, just like the real A6 was intended for. This is where it really shone, you guys. This thing could go in 300 feet above the deck in pitch darkness, find the target, bomb it, and come back and find the airport and find the carrier. I mean, think about that for a second. They had a lot of electronics to help them with that we don't have. So we'll use something like a little map on the side, and we can see where we are. You know, I mean, we're going to use something in the sim to help us with that. Test the autopilot functions, which I didn't do. Try to fly the 300 feet AGL and see what happens. Sometimes they said, I mean, I remember some of the things I've been reading about, they'd fly 100 feet off the water because the water's flat. They're not going to hit something. 100 feet off the water, and they come to land, they pull it up to 300 feet because they might hit something. All right? Kind of interesting, isn't it? Like the kind of nerve you have to pull that off. Going 250 plus knots, maybe even 350 on a normal cruise. Whew. Amazing. Get used to your lighting switches and dimming your VDI. Remember, it's over here. I'll give you a hint right now. Dim is here. Gun sight is here. Okay, that's hard to see. You'll need to trust your VDI for attitude orientation during your night flight. You can't see anything out there, especially in bad weather. You got to trust this. And be watching look at how close they are together. Airspeed, altimeter, and attitude right there. Boom. Reason for that. Okay. A final challenge, which I'm still not going to do till next week. Next week, I'm going to do it with the Super Carrier Pro, which is the product you see back here in the background. Supercarrier Pro allows any aircraft in the sim to take off using the catapult and the arrestor system, but this is an appropriate plane because that's where it lived on aircraft carriers. It has the little lever at the front that attaches to your catapult, and it's called the catapult grip. That's what it's called, right? That's why I put it in here to remind myself. Inside the plane, there was that small lever to the left I called the catapult lever or something. It's called the catapult grip. And when you get up close to the catapult ready for takeoff, you lower that little lever and they lock it in for you. And you'll hear it, you'll see the hand signals of them saying that you're a go for the lock. Some pattern work first. So just do left-hand patterns, come in and approach, try to hit the wires. Left-hand patterns, come in and approach. You know, this is the challenge. Do that as many times as it takes. Remember, as you're landing, give it full power. You might miss the wire and it'll help you get back off the deck again. All right? Too many planes in the past during the wars that have actually fallen off the aircraft carrier because they didn't give full power after they landed. So, all right, design your own mission. Simply take off from a carrier, touch and go on a land-based airport, and come back and find the carrier. And then add one more element at night. And you know you've mastered the airplane. I'm going to say, I haven't mastered the airplane yet. I couldn't find the carrier again. I had to go look at Little Nav map. Oh, it's over there. Yeah, okay. We don't have all the electronics that came with the plane. But look, here's how it could look. Does this give you enough incentive right here? Notice the red light. Notice that the bomber navigator guy is lower so that the pilot can see around him. Best visibility. This looks like the movie, doesn't it? Let's make our own movie. Anyway, have fun, you guys. And that's what it's all about. We have these planes. People have spent some of these planes. I've talked to developers. They've spent 1.5 years bringing these planes to us. And we spend an hour on YouTube with Howard. And now we're pros. We're not pros. We're just getting comfortable and we're having an orientation. And now I've got some shortcuts. I got some ideas what to do. And I don't have to go read a 450-page POH, right? Hopefully you'll go find your POH, right? So any questions, put them down in comments. Of course, I'd like to hear what you have to say. And certainly if you like the kind of material I'm doing here, give me a like and even a subscribe, and that would be great. Great. And that just helps along and shows that my efforts haven't been wasted. All right. If you have any questions at all, the best place to do your questions, you guys, so that I get answers right away. I'll try to answer all your questions here in YouTube, but if you come to my Discord channel, we have a number of people, hundreds of people, who could answer questions for you. It's all interactive. We have a voice channel there. We have a voice and video channel there. We have demonstration channels. We have screenshots. We have flight plans. We have all kinds of discussions about every event that's going on. This is a great place to come and meet and find other pilots and come fly with us on Saturdays on our Group Fly Interactive Multiplayer. So scan that. Come see us on Discord. Say hi. Tell me you've been in YouTube and you've discovered Twitch, and it'll be a lot of fun. I do belong to the Society of Aviation and Flight Educators, in case anybody's wondering. And I've been an EAA member for forever, which are headquartered at Oshkosh. I have a number of courses on Udemy for those who don't know. And I have beginner, intermediate, and advanced fixed-wing airplanes. These have been out now for over 10 years. And it's one of the best sellers on udemy.com. As you can see it written right here. Maybe it's in small print. udemy.com. I also have an IFR course that's doing well now. It's been out for a few months. And I'm almost finished my helicopter course, which will be published here on udemy.com too. So hopefully all of that stuff might be helpful to some of you, all right? Come follow me on Twitter X at TOForder. TO meaning Toronto, I guess. I had to pick a handle. At TOForder. And that way you'll hear notifications of upcoming streams, upcoming videos, upcoming anything. And it's a great way to find out what's going on. Right? Okay. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you again in the next video.